Welcome back to the channel, everybody. D-Man here. Today, as you can see, we're getting close to springtime and the tractors and lawn equipment are starting to roll in the shop. So we have a pretty easy one here to share for you guys today. We got one of the new Mower MT100 yard tractors in here, and it runs and drives and everything works good. The guy just wants it serviced for the season, so we're going to do a basic service on it, go over everything you need to do a service on one of these at your house yourself if you have one of these guys at home. So before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to the channel, as we have all kind of repair videos and knowledge that I'm sure is going to help you out. Give the video a like, comment down below what you think, and let's get to work. Alright, so now that we got it up on the lift, what we're going to do is just kind of give this thing a visual check over. Just kind of see what kind of condition it's in and what we may get into, like good old dog poopy on the tires. Gotta love that when they come in like that. Look under here, check out the blades. Blades look like they're probably going to need to be replaced, but we'll get to that in a second. Raise the hood. Oh, well, we're gonna have some more issues besides just a service, unfortunately for him. As you can see, looks like this insulation, we got some, looks like some yard thatch, some grass up in here. We have a rat nest underneath the cover. Pretty common thing when we get mowers that come in for the springtime to get their service. They've been sitting all winter in the buildings or outside in the backyard, and the rodents like to get up in them for warmth, and they will build nests. So we're going to have to remove the cover on the top of this engine and clean all that out. Otherwise this engine is going to overheat the first time this guy tries to go and cut his grass this season. So he's real lucky that he went ahead and brought it in now before he started using it, because that could have cost him an engine. But we're going to keep on going here with our visual. This thing looks like it hasn't been serviced yet. It's pretty new tractor still. He's probably had it maybe a season or two. Looks like it still has, what I can tell, looks like factory components on it. Let's just kind of check under here. Yeah, you can see more rodent material coming out there. So all in all, doesn't look too bad. The belts still look pretty good. So this thing should be pretty much a straight service, and besides removing this engine cover to clean out the rat nest. Hopefully there's no rats under there still. So the first thing I like to do is we're going to get this oil drained. You can see there's no quick drain and there's no drain hose. Unfortunately on these really cheap units, the only way to drain it is right here. This is your drain. And or if you have a vacuum evacuator machine, or a sucker as I like to call it, you can go through the dipstick tube and actually suck out, vacuum out the oil, which is what I'm going to do because I do have one of those machines. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you what you need to do to drain it if you do not have a sucker machine. So for you guys at home, if you need to remove this plug, the easiest way to do it is to get you a 1/2 inch extension. And what you're going to do is the back of it, where you would connect it to a ratchet, actually will fit over this plug. Bear with me, I'm trying to do this one-handed, just like so. So you can stick that square part over that plug, and then easiest thing is get you a crescent wrench or some type of a wrench, pliers, whatever. Put it on the end of this extension and lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. So you would break this lefty-loosey, remove that plug, and all your oil is going to drain out. It will make a mess, so make sure you have some towels and a good drain pan under there to catch as much as possible, because when these things do not have a quick drain hose or anything like that, they are messy. It's going to drain all over the deck right here, so just keep that in mind. Hence why I'm going to vacuum it out with my sucking machine. Alright, so as you can see, we are vacuuming out, sucking out the oil. This is my little sucker machine, oil extractor. You can get these things at Harbor Freight. They are literally $100. They're not that expensive, and they work really good. So now that we have the oil draining or sucking out, next thing we're going to do is come over here and remove the air filter. So you got these little locks up top, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, and these only turn a quarter turn pretty much, so you just turn them to the left. That unlocks it. Remove this cover, and then you're going to pull your air filter out and throw it in the trash can. Now we're going to continue through this operation as in this is just a regular normal service, and then when we get to the end, I will demonstrate how to get this cover off to get that rat nest out from under this engine cover. Alright, so we have our new air filter here. Same process, just reverse order. You're going to pop it over the tube there, intake elbow, pop it in, get your cover, push your little knobs back down into place, turn them a quarter turn until they lock. Don't overdo it. These things are plastic and they will break off very easily. And for this particular engine and machine, these are the part number for the replacement air filter right there. This machine and engine does not utilize an oil filter. Some do, some do not. If it does not have an oil filter, in this case, and normally the oil filter is located on the carburetor side, it would be sitting right around in this area. This one does not have one, so this machine will not hold as much oil as an engine that would have an oil filter. So this engine should be around about just over a quart to a quart and a half, give or take. So start with a quart of oil and then just add a little bit at a time until you get where you need to go. Now, oil that I use in the shop here for pretty much everything for our Georgia weather is 10W40. It works really good in the summertime, and it still starts pretty easily in the wintertime as we don't get very cold here. Now, you can pretty much put any kind of oil in your engine. Biggest thing is it has an engine oil in it, but your most recommended oils is regular SAE 30 weight oil. You can use a 10W30 or a 10W40 like I do here, and some places even use 1540 and 2050, but whatever you can find. I like to use the 10W40 myself, so that's what we're going to put in this tractor. Alright, so now you should already have your drain plug reinstalled if you did drain it. And we have our oil here. I have just a little over a quart of oil. Alright, so we're going to start adding our oil in. Alright, now we're going to get our dipstick, and if you're kind of new to reading the oil level on these sticks, let's see if we can get this thing to kind of focus. Alright, so you see the two dots right here? When it's all the way full, you're going to be right there at that second dot, okay? But as long as you're in between them two dots, you're okay. I try to shoot for the second dot. So we're going to go right here, put it in there, see where we're at. And you can see we're literally kind of shaking the stick here. We're literally in the middle of the 2 dots, so we're good. I'm going to add just a little bit more to get it on that 2nd dot, but that is what you're looking for. All right, so we got our oil level good. This particular engine held right at about 1.25 quarts of oil. So the next thing to do is our spark plug, which is right here. Usually I can take my fingers and I twist the rubber boot, kind of left and right here, just kind of loosen it up and then wiggle it off. It'll pop off. And then you're going to need a ratchet and a socket for this. So what you need is a 5/8 socket and a ratchet. Come over here, it's lefty loosey, righty tighty. I'll break it free. And then once it's free, we should be able to twist it loose here with our fingers. There's our spark plug. Definitely looks a little bit on the old side, so this is our new spark plug. And I already have all of these pre-gapped. Usually they're pre-gapped from the factory as long as you don't drop it. Just make sure that your gap is open and it hasn't been smashed closed. And this spark plug replacement, the part number is the champion part number is a RC12YC. So we're going to tighten that up. And once it starts to get a little tight, we just snug it. Pop our boot back on. And that is her. So the next thing we're going to do now is replace this fuel filter right here. So let me grab some tools and a new fuel filter. Alright, so the first thing we do for this fuel filter is I have some special pinch pliers here to pinch the fuel line so it doesn't leak gas out continuously, because it will drain the tank when you remove this line. You can use regular vice grips to do this. You do not have to have these, but if you just got some regular vice grips, something to clamp on here and pinch the line like so, and then a pair of pliers so that you can squeeze these little clamps that everybody hates. You squeeze them, slide them back, just like so. And then I like to grab the line and twist the fuel line back and forth on the fuel filter, just like so. Kind of loosen it up because they do get kind of tight. And then it's kind of a twisting and pull method at the same time to get these out without ripping and destroying the fuel line. There we go. So we'll get our new fuel filter now. This is the fuel filter that I like to use. I do not like the ones that come factory because you can't see through them to see if you got trash or water or stuff like that in your fuel. So I use these. They do have an arrow, so you want the arrow to point towards the carburetor. And the part number on this is a rotary fuel filter. The part number is 12951. That's what I use for pretty much everything here in the shop around this size. We're going to slide the hose back on. We're going to release our plier clamps, and then we're going to put our clamp back on the fuel hose here. Alright, now that we got the fuel filter done, we're pretty much done with the servicing of the engine, except for the rat nest we have to remove. But again, to stay on topic here, we're going to disregard that right now, and we're just going to continue to go through this regular maintenance service and deal with that here at the end. So we're going to shut the hood. Most tractors, and this one does, you got a grease fitting right here. Get a rag here. You got a grease fitting here, and you got a grease fitting on each one of your wheels on the front. So we're going to get a grease gun, and we're going to grease 1, 2, 3, 4 grease fittings for the front end of this tractor. I do have a little bit of a fancy grease gun. As you can see, it's a battery operated Milwaukee. You do not need a fancy grease gun, just a regular good old fashioned grease gun. with a standard tip will fit. So we'll just go on to the fitting here. And typically on the wheels, usually about 10 pumps is pretty good, or until you start to see it try to ooze out. On the front, up here on the front of the axle, usually they won't take that much. They'll start oozing out down here and at the top pretty quick. So usually 3 to 5 pumps probably. And there it is, it's starting to ooze out right there. So now we're going to turn the steering wheel the opposite direction to gain access for this side. And we're going to have to roll this front tire to get to the grease fitting down here. All right, so that is it for greasing on this tractor. There's no other grease fittings on this machine. Some other better machines may have grease fittings on the spindles and stuff like that. This one does not. Only grease fittings is on the front axles and the front wheels. So the next step is we're going to equalize all the tire pressure, which is very important so that it cuts level. A lot of people pass that. Air inflator here. I like to put about 20 pounds of pressure in the front tires. It helps keep the tires from rolling off the bead when you're turning really sharp. And in the back tires, I like to run about 15. All right, I'm gonna hit the other side real quick. All right, so now that we got our oil done, our spark plug changed, the air filter changed, the fuel filter changed, we got the front end greased, our air pressure is equalized. Now we're pretty much to the last steps here. We're going to raise the back of the mower up, remove our blades. We're gonna sharpen them if they're any good. If they're not, we're gonna replace them with new ones. So let's get this thing up. All right, so when you're under your mower, this is a 42-inch cut mower, so you have 2 blades. We're gonna get tools that I use to get these off. Most of the time, I can get every single blade off in this shop with this electric DeWalt impact gun. This is a 1/2-inch drive DeWalt gun. They're not cheap. They're well worth the money. Sometimes if they're really on there, I got to use my air tools, but this thing is very strong. If you do not have one of these, you can do it with a regular ratchet. I mean, it is, it's kind of difficult because you're trying to hold the blade and break the nut loose. I highly recommend grabbing one of these. You can go to Harbor Freight and they got some that are corded, that is not battery. It runs on just an extension cord, and they're very strong too, and usually will get these things off, and they're very cheap, like under $100, I believe. Well, where these things can go, up to around the $300 zone. So just giving you some advice. You need a 15/16 socket to fit this nut, and it's lefty loosey, righty tighty. All right, so now that we got these blades off, we're gonna check them out, see what we think. I'm gonna replace these blades. If you was in a pinch, you could sharpen these again and run them one more time, but as you can see, they're wore pretty bad. The back area back here is also getting super thin. So I'm going to put new blades on this machine. But if you had to, you could sharpen these and get by a little bit longer if needed. All right, so here's our new blades. This is a rotary copperhead part number 1032 blade that I use. It's a combination blade. This works for bagging, mulching, or blowing it out the side. So these are the blades I run. They work good, they cut good, and they work for all applications, whether you are mulching, bagging, or just blowing it out the side of the deck like this guy is. Now I do want to point, it's very important that you line up the star pattern with your blade and that you do not misalign that, because a lot of people do and it will ruin your spindle. Make sure your blade goes on that star pattern on the spindle and it's everything is lined up well before you tighten up the nut. All right, so we got our blades on. Come back down. And now we have a fully serviced tractor that is ready to go for the spring. So I hope that video helps you guys out. If you got one of these Murray tractors at home and you're wanting to service it yourself. So if you're just here for the service part of the video, that is pretty much it. You're done. You were good to go. For those that want to stay tuned for the rat nest, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna dive into that real quick, get that removed, cleaned out, and then we're gonna get this tractor off the bench and start on another project. All right, so remove this rat nest. Step one is we're gonna raise the hood. We're gonna pop off our air filter cover again. We're gonna pop our air filter out. Sometimes these ones, and they do, there is a little screw right back here. There you go, you can see it right there. It's a little 5/16 screw or a flathead. We got to get that screw out. We got to remove this screw right here. It's a 3/8, and then you have two in the front right here, 3/8 and a 3/8, and you got another one in this back corner also. It's a 3/8. Typically you can just loosen these up a little bit. I don't think you have to take them all the way out. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Just depends if the cover has the slot to slide it up. We're gonna pop our dipstick out. That way the cover can come up without hitting it. And let's grab some tools and get it off. All right, so we got a 3/8 gear wrench here. Just a standard wrench would work. Nothing fancy. Just faster if you have one. And we're just gonna loosen that up to about that point, I believe. Nope. These ones we do have to take all the way out. This cover does not have the slots to quickly remove the cover, which I hate. I don't know why they did some with and some without. Kind of stupid. So we got to pull these bolts all the way out on this engine. Come on, Briggs and scrap them. Be consistent with your products. Get our hand back here and see if we can turn this thing. It's pretty tight. There we go. Got it out. We got one more on the other corner. Same place. Before we get to those, we're going to get these ones out in the front real fast with some power. dropped one. So again, if these screws are right here in the front, okay, there's two of them right there next to each other. Now we're going to get our gear wrench again and go over to this other side. Take this one out. All right, so we got that screw there out. Now we got to get this one out that I told you that's hiding up here. This one is, we're using a nut driver. It's a 1/4 inch socket or flathead, whatever you got to get this little hidden screw out. That little guy there. Should be it. So now we're going to pop the cover off this thing and hopefully no critters jump out at us. I've had that happen. All right, so we're going to wiggle the cover up nice and slow. And again, hopefully nothing's still in there. But won't be the first time I've had this happen where something jumped out at me. And holy moly, look at the crap the rat put under there. Telling you, this guy would have never knew this. Look, you can tell where they were sleeping up here. Good thing is, luckily they didn't chew the ignition coil wire, because that's a famous thing they usually do, is they start chewing up the ignition coil wire and then your mower won't start. We see a lot of that. So yep, we're gonna get the shop vac. I'm gonna suck all this stuff out real quick, get it cleaned up. All right, we got our shop vac over here. I'm gonna fire it up. So now we can put our cover back on. And again, that's another reason why it's important to try to keep your equipment inside as much as possible. You know, a lot of people will put their equipment, you know, inside a building or something, but sometimes they still get in those if there's little cracks or holes. Or anything like that. Now that we got our cover back on, we're going to put in our special little hidden screw back here again. Put our bolts back in. And you do want to start all the bolts, thread them all in where they go first before you tighten any of them down. Because if you tighten one down, more than likely you won't be able to get the other ones started in. This thing's got to pretty much set perfect and line up, so leave them all loose, get them all started, and then tighten them down. Put our dipstick back in. Tighten these front ones back up. Put our filter back in, put our cover back on, and we got one more bolt on this back corner over here to tighten up, and then we're good. I'm going to shut our hood, and this tractor is finally done. It can go outside. The next thing we normally do is we give them a bath, we pressure wash them, degrease them with some purple power, and then wash them down. They look nice and clean when they go home. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. You kind of got a 2-for-1 deal there. It came in for just a spring tune-up and ended up actually having kind of a serious problem that could have really hurt this machine if the guy hadn't got this thing in when he did and ran it with that rat nest under that cover. It would have overheated. It would have not been good. So good thing he got it in here and got it checked out. But that's going to do it for today, guys. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to the channel, as we upload all kinds of good repair stuff pretty regularly. Give video a thumbs up, comment down below what you think, and we'll see you guys on the next one.